Hey there, Alan Matthews here. This video is about scale shapes and how to play them. I'm just going to introduce you to each of the 5 scale shapes, talk about how to practice them, talk about the nuances of each, and also about how they're used, why they came about, what the deal is with them on guitar. They're a little bit confusing for some people if you don't know about it, so hopefully this video will clear these things up for you and you'll feel much more knowledgeable about the scale shapes and why to practice them, how to practice them, and what you're doing with them. Let's do it. So going through these 5 major scale shapes, I just want to talk about these shapes, how they're used, what they're for, and just kind of also just play through them and hopefully help you to understand them more. So when we talk about the scale shapes, there are 5 primary scale shapes on the guitar, and they have a letter name. So we have the E shape and the C shape and the A shape and the G shape and the D shape. Well, it doesn't mean that they're in the key of C. They might be, but not necessarily. You got a 1 out of 12 chance of it being in the key of C. So the C shape doesn't necessarily mean we're in the key of C. It means that this shape is correlated with the cowboy chord C. And so the way that this C chord is built using this particular scale shape. It happens to also use open strings, and so it doesn't look like it the way that we practice it, because we practice them all fretted. But that's where they come from. The E shape chord derives from the E shape major scale, the G and the E. They all do. And so they're correlated back and forth. And so the point isn't really of these videos, is not to really explain exactly how all that happens with the chords, but mainly to look at these scale shapes first and foremost as an exercise in learning patterns, memorizing patterns, and also just to have something that you memorize that you can work your scales with, which is I and M alternation using free strokes. And so it's a pattern that you can memorize, and instead of just sight reading over and over, distracting yourself from the right hand, it's something that you can memorize and then be able to use your right hand with. And you know what happens, and a lot of different people have said this, is that scales are somewhat of a watermark on your playing. So, and I've found this too, as a teacher, I can typically, somebody new can come to me and I can say, play a scale. And I can pretty much know everything I need to know about their playing, technically anyway, from that C major scale, and also a lot musically as well, because the questions come into how well do you play that? Because how well we play our scales is basically how well we play in general. So if you really want to make your playing better, scales are a pretty dynamite place to do it. And so it starts with memorizing these 5 shapes. Now, let's start with the E shape, just for kicks. I'm just going to start right here on the 2nd fret. And the way that I like to think about these and talk about them is with number. So we'll start with, on the E string, it's 2 and then 4. 2, 4. Next string would be 1, 2, 4. Next string 1, 3, 4. Next string 1, 3, 4. Next string 2, 4. And then 1, 2. And you can use 4 as a little turnaround. So 1, 2, 4, 2. So you can go through there. This is the E shape major scale. Now, the root of this happens to be the lowest note that we're playing right here, which is the 2 finger on the low string. That's the name. So this happens to be an F sharp major scale. If we were going to say what scale are we playing, this is an F sharp major scale. If we're in the key of F sharp, we're going to be using a lot of these notes. Now if we move it up a fret, it'll be G. If we move it up 2 frets from there, it'll be A, B. Depending on what note that 2 finger on the E string is starting on, that's the key of the song. Now with the shape, it's just a shape. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, or 1, 2. So that would be the thing to remember. One of the ways you can memorize that is just to write it out. Whenever you're sitting in a line, if you're sitting at the DMV waiting to get your new registration or whatever it is, get your license renewed, sit there and just write it out 1,000 times. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2. And just back and forth. Go from the top down. Just draw the little grid out. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 2, 4, 1, 2. Do whatever you have to do. to memorize it. You could take one of these per week and then and learn it that way. But I highly recommend you memorize them all, because what happens is whenever you're playing a song, you end up playing little snippets of it. And if you know how they work and everything, then that's one of the ways that we remember things as we start to become more and more advanced players and memorize more music and learn more about scales, more about arpeggios, more about chords. Then the way that we learn music is to say, oh, that's that little snippet of that C-shaped chord, and then we're going to jump right up there, and then it's a little snippet of the G-shaped chord, and it's that sort of, or the G-shaped scale. It's that sort of thing. So we start seeing these patterns, and it's just a lump. We can clump 6 notes together in our brain and just pin it on as one thing. It's that scale, or it's that shaped scale. It's a C-shaped scale on the first 2 strings. And that way we can just think about that instead of 6 notes that are just randomly that we have to memorize. It is so helpful to be able to actually have the little peg to hang all those 6 notes on. And that way we can memorize it and learn it so much easier. And we've already practiced the technique of playing those 6 notes if we've been practicing our scale, so it's really handy. Moving on, the D-shaped scale, this one we start over on the 4th string. And you know, it's interesting, a lot of people ask, well, why not start on the 6th string? Because there are chord tones down there as well. And the reason is, with these particular ones that I'm presenting, is because it's all in the hand, all 4 strings, and there's no stretches that cover 5 frets. And to do the lower strings on that, then it would take that. So I'll start right here on the E, 2nd fret on the 4th string. It would be 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, up a fret, which we just bring the 1st finger up, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Is the way we play that. It's called a compression shift, some people call it. Whenever you go up, and then you squeeze your hand in slightly, and go to the new one, and then you're up into the 2nd position, and then whenever you want to come back down into the 1st position, position means that's where your 1st finger is with the 4 fret position, then we squeeze in the 4, and now we're going only two frets up, but we're using the pinky. And then the 1st finger can come back down and we're back into the 1st position again. It's like an inchworm moving like this. Would be an extreme example of compression shifting, and that's the way that these scales work. The D shape. Now, if you'll notice, that is very related to the E shape. It still starts off 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. It just happens to be that we have this, when we go to the B string, everything goes up a fret. I saw this years ago in some rock heavy metal magazine or something like that. It was Guitar Magazine, something like that. I don't know what magazine it was, but it was a rock or guitar magazine. But for every chord diagram they were talking about, there was this dotted line in between the G and the B, and it was labeled warp refraction threshold. So sci-fi, it's just funny. So when we go from the G to the B, we hit the warp refraction threshold. And back down. It's where everything just moves up a fret. But if you'll notice, it's still 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4. Same as 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4 on the E. And you know what? The A also has that same pattern. Things are getting crazy now. So the A shape, if we started on the 2nd fret of the A string, which I know on the diagram there's ones below it as well onto the E string, but the root is on the A string of the A major scale shape. And so the 2nd fret of the A string, 5th string, we're going to have that same pattern from there. 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. Then we have to go up for the warp refraction threshold. And then 1, 3. And then you can come back down and then back up. But I think it's important for your ear, whenever you're playing these, to start and finish on the root, or at least finish on the root. You could start down low if you wanted to, but then it doesn't sound like an A scale. until you actually kind of come back up to it and resolve it. You're like, oh, okay, now I get it. What's going on? So notice how similar the E shape, the D shape, and the A shape, the three of those, how similar they are. And then also, these next two, the C shape and the G shape, are also similar. So starting with the C shape, we're going to start on the 4th fret on the A string again, and then we'll come back down to the low note and back up. We start with the 4 on the 4th fret of the 5th string, and then go 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4. And then down to the 5th and back up. And the last shape is the G shape, and for this one, it actually uses 5 frets as the A shape does as well, and the D shape. And so we're going to start on the pinky on the 6th string, 5th fret, and there we go, 4, 1, 3, 4. And then for the next one, this is perhaps the only confusing spot in the entire run of scales, or one of the few anyway. We have a 1, 3 is what it looks like on the page. We're actually going to use our 4th finger to do that, because that'll allow us then to get, for the next one, 1 fret back to the 1st fret for 1, 2, 4, and then go back up with the 1st finger up to the 2nd fret of the 2nd string, 1, 2, 4, and then 1, 3, 4. Pinky coming to the 3rd string, 4, 2, 1. And then now our 4 is right in place for the 4th fret, because we're on the 1st fret on the 3rd string. Whenever we're going to the 4th string, we're just going to use our pinky, and then we're going to use our 1st finger again down 2 frets on the 2nd fret. Not the 2, because then we'll have to stretch weirdly to get to the next note. We use the 1st finger, and then that allows the hand to open, and now we can go back to the 5th fret on the 5th string, and then just close it out that way, 4, 3, 1. And then finally ending up on the 4 on our root note again. So the root of the G string, the actual scale is named after, is the G shape is this note, the pinky on the lowest string. Of course, there are also other notes in it that you could play, because the 2 E's, I mean, they're both E's, and obviously we're playing 1, 3, 4 up on this E. Well, technically, yes. All 3 of those notes are also scale tones on this, but just for the ear's sake, we can just end and begin right here on the root. You could go down if you wanted to, but that's just for extra credit. So there you go. There's some scale shapes. As always, go slowly. Think about long ball, play long ball. Think about the long haul. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it just does. So go slowly, practice intentionally, and we get every little nuance. Play exactly like you ultimately want to play, not like you play now. So have fun. Till next time.